And I get all of the controversy. I get everything is going through. But I think the execs and these analysts and the fans and people who just want to get a cheap Ja Morant deal need to cut it out, man. Let's cut it out. What the Memphis Grizzlies and Ja Morant himself need to realize is you have to play a certain brand of basketball if you want to be successful. Now, I'm not going to lie, man. It's been very difficult to defend Ja Morant in past seasons. But this season, I actually kind of feel his pain, man. And you look at the way the roster is constructed compared to when they won 51 games. It just hasn't been the same, man. And I'm talking about that Dylan Brooks, Desmond Bane run where they got eliminated by the Lakers. That was the highlight of their tenure together. And you see Dylan Brooks leave. It's been 2 seasons, and he was literally the heart of that team. Morant might have been the star of the show. But Dylan Brooks was basically the Draymond Green of that team. And then this previous offseason, they traded Desmond Bane and actually got quite a bit of a haul for him. I think the Orlando Magic kind of overpaid for him, but you see them ship out Desmond Bane for a bunch of draft picks and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. And you're headed into this season looking at the organization with a big question mark. And yeah, you still have Jaren Jackson Jr., and Brandon Clark. I love Brandon Clark, but this team is clearly not the same, and it almost looks like they're headed into a rebuild. Now, that doesn't give Ja Morant to have a stinky attitude and to be beefing with the coach, especially when you get paid $39 million. But I totally get what he means when he says he's unhappy. And I've seen Ja Morant talk about mental health issues before. And clearly, if you're listening to young boy waving a gun around and mean mugging everybody in a stadium, clearly your mental health is not at its highest. And I'm not giving him any excuses. I'm just saying that I, as an empathetic person, understand what he might be going through this season. And on top of that, when you got all this scrutiny on you about not being healthy, and then you continue to not be healthy and not be able to get on the floor, me thinking that I know what kind of person he is, that probably eats at him, at your mental health as well. That eats at him. Nobody wants to be injured. Nobody wants to be the star of the team and watch their team suffer and you can't even get on the floor and help them. And of course, when he comes back onto the floor, he wants to be that same superstar, that same Ja Morant that we've known and loved back in the gritty days, back when he was doing the gritty. But it's just frustrating, man. We got to stop looking at these players as commodities and look at them as people as well. So with that being said, man, I think we just need to cut out the whole Ja Morant trade rumors. Mostly because his trade value isn't that high right now. The difference between Luka Doncic and Ja Morant is anybody would have taken that deal for Luka Doncic. Everybody would have thrown the whole book at Luka Doncic. Nobody is throwing the book at Ja Morant. They're just not, unfortunately. And I think the main thing that the Grizzlies need to work on, and we're going to look at some trade scenarios, but I think the main thing that the Grizzlies need to work on is getting Ja Morant the help that he needs to mature and understand what he means to this organization, what he means to the city of Memphis. And the organization needs to realize that Ja Morant is the reason why you guys are even relevant. He brought the franchise back to relevancy. And yeah, he's been going through what he's been going through the past couple seasons with injuries, and you guys are paying him what you're paying him, but you paid him that contract for a reason. You didn't just give it to him just because he's a good player. You gave it to him because of what he brings to the organization, what he brings to the fan base. And trying to just get rid of him because of these series of rough patches is not going to do anything for your fan base. Especially if you can't even get a good haul back. And if you do somehow end up trading him, you might as well get rid of Jaren Jackson as well and just go full rebuild. Because you got some solid pieces to start a rebuild, especially with a healthy Zach Edey. You just need to find a point guard. But, Scottie Pippen Jr. is a good point guard. He's been waiting to start. When that boy starts, he's highly underrated starting point guard. Just to solidify my opinion, man, we've heard a lot of talks about the Minnesota Timberwolves being the #1 candidate for a trade. And let's set the record straight. The Minnesota Timberwolves are not getting rid of Jaden McDaniels. And it doesn't even make sense for them to get rid of Julius Randle. I could possibly see them getting rid of Julius Randle and starting Naz Reid, but I think that just messes up the whole dynamic. But I can't see the Memphis Grizzlies not wanting Jaden McDaniels. But if they somehow wanted Julius Randle and then maybe throw in Mike Conley or DiVincenzo, maybe that could work. And you can't trade Naz Reid until January 15th, which means you're going to have to sit on this Ja Morant situation for at least another month. Then I keep hearing the Sacramento Kings. Not a bad scenario for Ja Morant to go to, but look at the return you're probably going to get for Ja Morant. You have to either take Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan if you're the Memphis Grizzlies, and maybe try to convince them to give you Keegan Murray. I don't think the Kings are giving you Keegan Murray. I just don't see it. And then the third option is the Phoenix Suns. At best, Jalen Green. And maybe, I don't even know who else. Grayson Allen, nah, they're not giving you, they'll give you Jalen Green straight up and maybe throw in Mark Williams or Nick Richards for some filler. And someone mentioned the Bulls, and I think I heard Toronto. Let's check out Toronto real quick. I think I heard Toronto. I'll tell you why I don't think Toronto is a good fit. Now, on paper, straight up, trade Brandon Ingram for Ja Morant. That ain't that bad. That might be great on paper, but I just don't see Ja Morant being happy on the Toronto Raptors. I don't see him, having a better attitude playing for the Raptors. I could see him having a better attitude playing with Anthony Edwards, competing for a championship. I could see him being a little bit cool being in California on the Kings, and then him getting to be a star of a show, playing with Sabonis and possibly playing with Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan. I could see him being okay in that situation. I cannot see that with the Toronto Raptors, man. I just can't. Think this game right here against the Wizards, who are pretty much bottom 2 in the entire league, just proves my point, man. And yeah, they were supposed to win this game. And I think that they are very well coached. And maybe you do consider moving the coach after this season if they are butting heads with Ja Morant. But I think the Memphis Grizzlies are just better off keeping Ja Morant, man, and just working through the internal issues. And a lot of people are saying what's broken can't be fixed. But I'm not an advocate for that, man. I wish that the Washington Wizards could have fixed whatever was broken between them and John Wall. And maybe we wouldn't be in such a terrible situation, even though that was a catalyst for us to start our rebuild. But it just didn't feel right. And even though this is business, man, karma's freaking real, bro. But this game just proves my point. They were supposed to win, and somehow they just took their foot off the gas pedal in the second half and let the Wizards win. And I'm happy. As a Wizards fan, if you've been following this channel, you know that I'm a Wizards fan. I'm happy for this W because we definitely need a W, but we weren't supposed to necessarily win if Memphis doesn't give us this win. And I say that lightly because we balled the hell out. Like, we balled out, man. Plus minus was on point. Alex Sarr, once again, good numbers, but I just need him to be more physically imposing in person. And like I said, Ja Morant is not having the best season. He definitely has an attitude problem. His past is plaguing him. And you got to realize that what the organization has been doing with the team and him not being physically healthy is playing a role as well. It's got to be eating at him. That's why in that Utah Jazz game, he bought all those tickets for his family to come out, and he tried to go hard. He tried to be superstar Ja. They need to have a come to Jesus meeting and get Ja Morant to buy into the system. Ja Morant can't be the system anymore. He can't play the way he's been playing because that's contributing to his injury-prone history. He needs to buy into the system, and they need to realize what he means to that city and what he means to this organization, and just pick up the pieces from there. But that's all I got to say, man. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If the Memphis Grizzlies decide to trade him, what's the best team? to trade him to? If you are a Memphis Grizzlies fan, what would you like in return for Ja Morant? What do you think is fair value for Ja Morant in this current situation? And if you're an advocate for the Memphis Grizzlies keeping Ja Morant like I am, let me know your thoughts on what they need to do as an organization and what Ja Morant needs to do personally in order to get back on the same page and get back to just focusing on basketball. And if you made it to the end, man, thanks for rocking out with me. I appreciate the views. I appreciate every comment, and stay tuned for more basketball content. Thanks.